So just got done finishing an amazing call with one of our superstar athletes, Grace, that set out to do a triathlon last year. We started basically almost a year to the day getting into this process of hiring a coach, figuring out how we're going to navigate the gym and running sessions, swimming sessions, biking, nutrition, all these other things, while trying to balance everyday life, taking care of work, taking care of the family, seeing friends, and it comes down to the fact that anytime you set out a goal, whether it's small or massive and you don't think that you can ever achieve it, you have to understand that there are steps that you can take along the way every single time. If you only think about the end goal and you only think about where you're going to be in a year from now, it can get so daunting, it can get so discouraging when things start to slow down, especially if you feel like you have to do everything perfectly from day one. You don't need to do it perfectly. You need to figure out how you can get your small wins, and then after that, what you can do every day, every week to get yourself just slowly better and better and better. And that's something we spoke about a lot in detail, and that's something that Grace executed so well throughout this entire process. Yes, she wanted to be able to have something concrete, perfect, that she can check off the list every single day and not think about it, but the value of being able to tackle obstacles as they come up, come back for feedback, and for us to be able to discuss these next steps of things that she can do at her pace that she was comfortable with, was the absolute greatest factor that was going to help her succeed. She's an animal, she's a warrior. She managed to do this triathlon, not because she always wanted to do one, but because she thought, you know what? Let's do something that's challenging for me. Let me do something I never thought that I was going to be able to do before. And not only did she do it, but she topped that off with 2 other sprints, and she's going to do even better next year. This went from one goal that she wanted to get to before 30 to it looks like something that she's going to be continuing to do for a very long time. When we started talking about what your goals were of training and everything else, you wanted to get into the racing. Now that you had done it already, we did speak last time about how you felt going through the whole process, and how even after that, I think we started with just the goal was like one race, right? And then coming back to it now, and as we're looking at post having done that stuff already and looking at scheduling the training year, it turns out that it's not something you only want to do once anymore. So I'm really curious, and this is something that's going to be really helpful for me too, in programming and everything else, that now that you've set out with a goal, you decided to do it, we got to it, could you look back and think to yourself, why this was so important to you? I know you said you wanted to do the triathlon before 30, but is there anything more than that you felt was important for you to get done?
What was important for me to get this done? It was just to really prove to myself that I was able to set something out for myself and complete it. And honestly, it was more to prove it to myself and just hey, what am I made of? Am I really how strong am I? How much can I endure? And I really wanted to experience that. And honestly, you remember, I was even questioning why I was doing it at one point, because I couldn't really understand where the heck did I pull triathlon out of? Where did this come out of? And it was kind of, then I was reflecting, and then I was okay, well, I've done the half marathon. I did the half marathon. I wasn't interested to do anything longer than that because of training time. And then I'm you know what? I've been cycling the past couple of years. I've swam in the past. I guess I could do a triathlon. So that's where the idea kind of stemmed from. And I think what kept me going, and what I did realize when I was having those doubts, is really Grace, you're doing this for yourself, and you're doing this to I have to give credit where credit is due. Fred actually even told me, you're doing this to be a beast. You're doing this for the mental challenge. You're doing this for the physical challenge. You're doing this to overcome all obstacles. I'm okay, Fred. So yeah, it was kind of something that had to be pulled out of me. It wasn't something that was always that obvious, because I was just kind of looking for a challenge. And so I picked triathlon because it was something I hadn't done before. And then it was kind of backwards, right? I didn't have a deep-rooted reason why. I kind of found my why as I was training. So
that's cool. I think that's super interesting, because you didn't choose something very easy. I love, we we spoke a little bit about why you wanted to do it. And I remember it being something like that. Well, I wanted to challenge myself and do something and do this pretty. But I didn't know that it was just you kind of like putting pieces together of like, well, I don't want to run the whole time. And I have swam and I've been on a bike. I know how to cycle. Okay, cool. Let's just fucking do a triathlon. So
Yeah.
really like that. And I love the support corner of it just being like from the outside in, Fred, saying, well, yeah, sure, you might want to do it because it's a goal that you have, but also do it just purely because it's a challenge. Let's just see what you're made of. And I think that a lot of people don't give themselves the opportunity to see what they're made of. And like a lifting meet, it's not like a bodybuilding competition or something like that. It's an endurance competition, and you really, really get to see what you're made of as your body starts to break down, as the weather changes. Like you said, like, depending on what it throws at you, if the water's too choppy and they just decide, oh, hey, all of a sudden now you're doubling up on something else and not doing that. Like, these are all that you have to contend with, and these are all obstacles, and I know, like, you kind of watched the video I put up about the obstacles being the goal. So what do you think were some of the biggest obstacles that you had to face when you started out? And were there any other ones that came up that you weren't even thinking of?
Yeah, when I started out, I was running only. And I remember even telling you, like, I don't know how the heck I'm going to fit in 2 days of training. And that was all I was able to give, like 2 hours of training, 45 minutes, like max. And I was just like, time, like, where am I going to find this time? And you just make the time, So it's crazy how that works, and how, like, when you're not pressed up against the wall, not that I was pressed up against the wall, but like, obviously I wanted to work towards this goal and I wanted to put the work in. And without it, I was wanting to do strength training, but I wasn't getting to the gym. But now that I had set out this goal and I had to go to the gym, well, you have no choice. Like, if you want to get this goal and you want to set yourself up for like success and be the best you can at that time, like, I have to get to the gym. So I just made it work, like, I started off with something that was really realistic. I remember telling you, like, 2 days, I think I can do it. And it was very realistic. And, my running and the scheduling became so much easier, but over time, the obstacle became like not so much finding the time to do it, but finding balance to do other things. So yeah, training was taking over. And maybe I was neglecting, simple things like washing dishes, laundry was piling up. My house is a mess. I haven't seen these friends in a long time, or, things like that. So yeah, so at first it was time. And then obviously I started taking chunks of my time to allot training. And then I was just like, well, I want to make sure that I see everyone too. So I know it's like not like really like an obstacle for me, like getting to my goal, but kind of, because you still have to live your life, right? Like, at the end of the day.
Navigating like how you're going to split your time and how you're going to balance, whether it's work-life balance or training-life balance, it's the same kind of thing. And like you said, a lot of people find themselves in that situation where they lack the motivation to do something if there's no very distinct end goal in sight. And so having that end goal that you had, which was a triathlon, gives you the motivation to do everything else, because at least you can always feed back on this thing that, like, this big goal that you have that's greater than yourself, or this challenge that you have to say, well, I can't miss another day at the gym, or I have to do these things. But you're so right that, at the same time, whenever you're driven towards anything, whether you're super like work driven or anything else, it's hard to balance it all out, right?
Yeah.
Do you think that was something that do you think that was the most difficult thing, was navigating like the training and life and work? Or
Yeah, it certainly was. The balance was the hardest thing. Obviously in training, I would say like the nutrition part didn't come so easy to me. So that was something that I was just learning. And, James, you're like, oh, yeah, you eat what makes you feel comfortable. I'm like, I don't know what makes me feel okay. So that was kind of like a trial and error. And, you played a huge part in kind of giving me that confidence to just, it's okay if it doesn't go well, then you'll know for next time that this combination is not the best and we'll try something else. So, that was very helpful as well. So, but it was also stressful because you're just like, okay, like, went for a run and it wasn't that great, but the weather was perfect. All conditions were perfect except like, did I eat the right thing? I didn't have enough energy, or I felt sluggish, or this or that. So you're kind of always like judging yourself in a sense, but not in a bad way, but like, because you have to kind of reflect on, okay, did this work? Did this not work? Or things like that. So yeah, the nutrition part was kind of a learning curve. But finally, when I started to see some things being okay, then I was like, all right, I'm just gonna stick to my what was it? At one point, I was doing sweet potatoes and rice. So I'm like, I'm just gonna stick to that because that's the best meal for me after my like lunch run, and then that way I know I have enough carbs for fuel for my gym workout later. So that was working really well, and I like didn't change it. So nutrition didn't come easy, but yeah, I think the biggest obstacle has to be finding balance. Everything else, I was just having fun with it, honestly. Like, I didn't take myself too seriously, I feel. I didn't want to put too much pressure on, like, I have to go this pace and I want to get to this time. Like, I never had a time goal for my triathlon. I was just really like, I just want to do it. So that took a lot of pressure off in that sense, because as an athlete, like, I could kind of get into that, like, okay, well, I could have done better there and this and that. And I still did have those experiences.
Oh, I remember you saying like, I could have pushed a little bit here. I wasn't as tired as I thought I was going to be, so I could have upped my pace. And I remember telling you like, yeah, after the fact, it's easy to say that shit.
Right.
Like, everyone does when it comes to competition. When you're in it versus out of it, when you have that hindsight, it's very, very different. And you're also not in the same zone. You don't feel the same kind of pain, right? But it is good also because it gives you something else. Like you said, this was supposed to be a one-time deal. Hey, we're going to do a triathlon before done, whatever it is. And then that goes to, okay, well, now we have a bunch of time to train before next year's races. And that's where things get exciting, because you realize like, hey, all of a sudden this obstacle or this goal that seemed so big from before, and then once you get it, the just achieving it on its own fires you up to be able to do more and more later on.
For sure. And I mean, like after the race, obviously I was like a little bit more like, focused on performance, because that was like, okay, I know I can do this now. Like, how good can I get? So yes, but like during the training, I didn't know like what would happen on race day. So during my training, I was giving myself like a lot of grace. Like if I felt like that run, like I could have gone faster, I was just like, hey, it doesn't really matter. Like, you got the miles in, like you got the kilometers in, it's all good. Like, you did what you had to do, you did your job, and like the rest will take care of itself, kind of thing. So yeah, I think I'm talking a lot about the training because that's where I spent the most amount of time, right? Like, doing the triathlons was great, but like the training was, I know everyone says it, like, focus on the journey, not the end goal. But it's so true. It is so true, because like that is the most time spent was within that year of training. So yes, the triathlon went how the triathlon went, and I'm going to take my learnings from them. But the funnest part and the most challenging part was the training. So yeah.
I'm curious. So that's awesome, because that's something that I really wanted to know. I try to always meet people where they are as best as possible, and I want to make sure like I can help you overcome some of those obstacles, whether it's, the nutrition and you trying to figure out what was going on, and we can try to figure out, what feels good first. Let's not get too crazy with it. And then we can put it down. But I'm always so curious from your perspective, what part of that process was most enjoyable? Like, where did you feel either that you were seeing the most progress, or you just had the most fun with it, or what part of it didn't feel so much like work and felt more like an actual enjoyable experience?
I mean, it depended week over week. I mean, for the most part, like, I really enjoyed everything. Like, I was really just excited to do this and set out to do this goal. But I mean, some weeks, yeah, they were miserable. Some weeks, like, I definitely didn't want to go to the gym, or, like I had other things going on, or, stress from work or stress from home. And it's like, I can just not go train this week, but no, like I would still push myself to do it. That's a very good question. No, I mean, I enjoyed it all, but I really, really loved race day. Like, let's be honest. Like, when I got to race day, I was so excited. I was like, okay, we're here. Like, let's do this. And after that first sprint in June, when I saw like what I made of, basically, I was like, oh, okay, like this is really not that bad, you know? Like I was like, damn, like I really worked hard to be able to do this. Something I thought that like was so unattainable and so like I was like, oh, like I'm never gonna like triathlon before 30, like that's a pipe dream. Like I don't know if that's gonna happen, you know? And then like doing it and being like not out of breath at the end, I'm just like, oh, like that was cool. Like let's do that again. Like I'm excited to do that again. So I think the peak was definitely race day. But I had fun throughout it all, honestly. I really did. Like from working out at the gym, from being around everyone, from my bike rides, I would always try to like go with groups. I don't like bike riding alone, so I would make it fun for myself in that way, right? Like I don't want to just like, you know, okay, well I have to do my training now, goodbye, and like lock myself in a room and do it. Like I want to make it enjoyable for myself. So like, yes, I'll run at any weather, but like the sunny days, I appreciate them just a little bit more, you know? So like you just kind of find those small little like wins and those small moments of gratitude, and they kind of just accumulate over the way. That's why I'm like, I love my training because of moments like that, you know?
So you're saying like probably what helped the most is actively trying to find a way to make the whole process enjoyable, not just, you know, just looking forward to and not paying attention to anything else, just looking forward. Like, what can I do on a daily basis to make this enjoyable? Whether, like you said, riding with groups or trying to be out, trying to enjoy the nice days when they come, and even the days like this, like,
or you know, like my overnight oats. Like, I don't really like banana and all the popular recipes are like oatmeal, like overnight oats with banana, and I'm just like, I really like overnight oats with strawberry and like, you know, like whatever. Like, I know it's a stupid example, but like, you know, somebody would say, well, the bananas fit my macros a little bit better. Well, no, like I like strawberries more, so I'm gonna put strawberries in my overnight oats. Things like that, like, you know, like the gels could get a little bit repetitive. So like, you know, switching it up, new flavors, whatever. I know it's so like these things are really small, but you want to make sure that you're comfortable, that you like it. You know, like I know I would get really pissed at myself when I would forget my running belt and then my phone was moving all around or I had to carry it. Like, just make it comfortable for yourself and like, you know, like so you can enjoy your time training versus like fidgeting and like, I don't know, things like that. I know it's small things, but it just makes things more enjoyable for yourself, you know?
It does make a difference. And I'm also curious, you know, having started out far from your goal, getting into the process, also trusting me, which is awesome, which I obviously super appreciate because it's the first time we worked together and we managed to do this whole thing. We stayed together for the year that we were doing it, back on track whenever there was like ups and downs in terms of like how we were feeling about the training and how far we were from the goal. And so obviously I know that you did a lot of work. As much as like I'm here to coach and I'm here to help and we're there to, you know, to talk you into things or out of things, you still had to do a lot of internal work there too, when things were tough, when you were unmotivated to go train and how you got yourself there. And so I'm always so curious about what advice you would give to someone who's like starting out, who's coming into the process, having to trust someone to like write their training and organize their stuff, how you got yourself into that zone and was able to like say, okay, like I'm gonna trust this person and hopefully they don't fuck everything up for me and I can. It's so like, what advice people starting that?
I think what was funny to me and like I would laugh at myself is like I would kind of be like I did put a lot of trust in you and I was like, oh, you know, like, well, I'm with James and like he's my coach and whatever. And so I think for the first couple weeks, like I was like, oh, okay, like he's gonna tell me what to do and da da da. And like you do provide a lot of guidance. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is I guess I was like kind of like, okay, but what else? What else is gonna tell me? Like what? And at that point, I was just like, oh, he's there to guide me, but I'm there to do the work. So it was like kind of realizing for myself, like, all right, James is there to help, but like I am here in the now and I have to actually figure shit out, you know? So like if I have questions, like I could definitely go to James, but he's not going to be the one like doing things for me. He's not in my kitchen meal prepping. You're not there to drive me to the gym. Like, I have to drive myself, so.
That package costs way more.
Right. So
cook the meal, the gym. Yeah, that's a whole other package.
So, I mean, like, not that what I got was not what I expected, but I don't know what I was expecting. I guess I was just, at the beginning, especially, I was like, oh, okay, I have a coach. He's going to give me like a plan. He's going to give me a detailed thing and then. And like I said, I don't really know what I was expecting, but I was like, after a couple of weeks, I was like, oh, like, I actually have to do this thing now. And I think that's where my doubt and my fear started to creep in, because I was like, this is all on me. Like, yes, I have people supporting me, but at the end of the day, like, I have to bring it, So what my advice would be to others is like, yes, it could be overwhelming because there's so many things to consider, training, nutrition, balance, work. Like, you have your life too, right? Outside of like your training goal. So you kind of just have to take little bites at a time and just, like what I did. So my first battle was maybe a little bit of actually my first battle was getting to the gym. So I overcame that. Then it was nutrition. Then I'm like, okay, well, I have to fit in a biking session at some point. So then I tackled that. Then I'm like, okay, well, I need to fit in some swimming sessions. But before I swim, I need to get myself a bathing suit. So let me get a bathing suit.
Yeah.
So I know that was the biggest struggle. I hadn't gone in the pool for like 3 years because I didn't have a bathing suit. So it's like things like that where it's like, okay, now I'm starting to take little bites to kind of get me toward the end goal, which is actually completing this thing. And that can be as simple as I need to buy my bathing suit. So really breaking it down for myself. And okay, so nutrition this week, I'm just going to focus on nutrition. Okay, next week, my sleep isn't doing so great. So maybe I should focus on getting to bed at the time I said that I would. Okay, this week, I noticed last week that this wasn't going great. Let me make this adjustment this week. So I feel like I was really taking little bites of things and not trying to do everything at once and being okay with that. Because at some point I was like, oh, like my sleep, by this and this and this can be better. And I'm like, okay, whoa, like it's okay. Let's focus on one thing at a time and we'll get there. And I think we did. So.
And it's funny you say that because I hear exactly what you're saying. And I think that it's a lesson that a lot of people can learn because really, we're looking for this recipe of the perfect amount of things that we can do, how we can fit everything in together, how we can come out as, as successful as possible, as quickly as possible. But the truth is that recipe only has one ingredient, and that's how small can you make every step so that you can, what is the smallest step you can take today? What is the smallest step you can take this week? What do you think that you have to work on that is the smallest effort, but would make the biggest impact? And understanding that you don't have to do it all at the same time, right? I feel like if we started off, and I'm glad you brought up the coaching style too, because it's not very dogmatic the way that I do things, right? It's very much, hey, we're going to start off with this structure. I want to see how you're going to do it. Let's see where we sink. Let's see where we swim. And then we're going to go from there. Because even though we need to run, bike, swim, train, eat, sleep, recover, all this other stuff, day one sings to someone, or if I was to tell you, okay, Grace, guess what? Like this week you got to go get your bathing suit, you got to find time to bike 2 sessions, you got to find time to go to the gym, you got to make sure that you understand your training and are training appropriately, you got to make sure that you fuel for all of these sessions. Don't forget to get that bike in. Is it going to be an outdoor bike ride or an indoor bike ride? Track all this stuff down so we can track your volume over time, and then we can make, that's like, oh yeah, cool. Fuck this, because it's so many things to worry about, as opposed to building these things over time, getting those small wins, feeling comfortable. And then as soon as you do, it's like, oh, okay, oh, you know what? Now that I'm comfortable with all this stuff and I can see where I might be lacking, oh, that's the next thing that I can work on. And then it comes back to this process of like, okay, well, now how can I do this? And then, okay, here are all our options, Because I feel like if I gave you those millions of things to do day one, it seems like from the way things went that, again, the probably most pressing thing would be like, well, I don't even have a bathing suit. This all falls apart right now. Like it's a thing. And that's how these small issues snowball into much bigger issues that cause people to feel overwhelmed and then quit. Is because they feel like they have to do it all day one without realizing it that you're going to get to your goal. Give yourself the opportunity to see what is easy and what you're immediately successful at. And then give yourself the opportunity after that to see what you can work on step by step. And I think you nailed that, absolutely. So super, super proud of the progress that you made. Super proud of the trust that you gave to me and that you trusted the process and found a way to enjoy it the whole time. We have 2 minutes left before Zoom kicks me off because I'm a loser and I don't pay for an upgraded version. But I'm so curious. I know we spoke about it a little bit, but if you had time to think about it in a little bit more detail, what do you think is the next portion of this journey for you?
Oh man, no, because as you know, I'm not a thinker of aheadness.
That's a really philosophical way to say that. I am not a thinker of ahead. I like that. That's really...
No, I don't put too much pressure on like what's gonna come in the future. I kind of just go intuitively. I know for sure next year I'm gonna smash my triathlon, and I'm ready to like kick it up a bit in the performance without putting too much pressure on myself still, because I obviously still want to enjoy it.
Yeah.
But I think really, focusing on like, hey, where can we fine tune? How can I make sure that my speed workouts for my run and my bike are contributing to how I really want to, race this thing. So I think that would definitely be that. And lastly, James, thank you. Thank you, because the style works for me, at least. I think if somebody were there to give me every single step, which is, I think, maybe what I expected, it wouldn't have come up with the same result at all. So yes, like it was good to kind of like, kind of be thrown in the wolf tank and just, Shark Tank, to kind of just, do what I need to do and figure out how I need to figure it out, but with your gentle guidance and telling me not to worry about things so much, and making sure that I give myself a little bit of grace.
You definitely did, and honestly, like, you killed it the whole time. So I'm super excited to do the next portion of this and see what we can use from the last time to make sure that we do even better on this next one. And I think this thing should stop in like a few seconds. But awesome, thank you so much for this. This has been great.
Thank you very much.